There, what are you studying?
No, I'm just not gonna say it.
You should get your feet wet easy.
I'll take this wet.
It's a long meeting. They have been. It's not your first rodeo?
No, messed up myself. That's all right.
I was about to text you, Allison. I was about to text you. Get your phone. Oh. I'm getting support from the gallery. I'll turn my ringer off. Don't forget to turn your ringer off, Les, in case somebody texts you. Oh.
Did you sign for you and your wife? Okay. Maybe we lay here for extras.
I guess.
Do you have, already have one, David?
This is page 1.
Page
Elaine,
one.
do you want to say how
pages?
all of you sign it, or?
Just not the board, just everybody else who's here. Yeah, that'd be great.
If you've already got that, then maybe that's my copy. Maybe I just thought that I was going to take it there and pass it around. David's already got one, I think.
Those are front and back on
Unless
one.
somebody else comes.
Oh wait, it's the same. They're all the same page.
Anybody else want a copy?
My bad, sorry. Sorry.
And her 3 copies.
I'm not really trying to.
I thought it was all one package. I'm sorry. It's been a long day.
Did you got one?
Tell the players about the program.
Where do you live? Up the street by the school? In the yellow house?
Thank you.
I love yellow houses.
Because somebody, I don't know, I've not been there. My daughter was the secretary there for 3 years at the school. One of my customers was telling me that they were your neighbor or something. I said, yeah, it's just the yellow house. I haven't noticed any houses, but
I think it's close enough.
the only one I know is the one with the pink tractor.
Call the meeting to
down
order.
by the school.
6:30?
6:29.
Okay.
You can let him introduce himself.
Yes, we're gonna let you go first and introduce yourself.
All right. I'm Bob Woolsey. I bought Robert Series' house over here on the corner. And I just wanted to say that I was interested in snow removal this winter.
Okay. It's nice to meet you. I'm Natalie May. I'm chairman of the board. Elaine Bohannon is our city clerk. We have Aletha Turley, Beth Wheeler, Lorianne Fisher, and David Lanehart are all the board members. And then Jim is our water operator, which I'm sure you know him, and Jan Dooley.
Okay.
So it's nice
I
to
don't
meet you, and
remember
thanks
being
for
clerk.
your.
No, I'll change chairs.
I have a question. When you talk about snow removal, you want to do it or you want it for you?
I was willing to do it.
Okay.
Which house is yours? I don't know why.
Bob Drummond. When you pull in from the first
Right on
house
that
right
way.
there.
Mr. Siri.
On the other side of the school on the corner.
Oh, down just as you come in on.
It's from that one on the right that's up on the big hill.
It's been cleaned
Mary,
up
we're Bob Drummond.
tremendously in the last
Huh?
6
Bob
months.
Drummond.
Lots of work.
You have to go back enough generations to speak the same language.
Okay. Well, it's nice to meet you, and we appreciate you being interested in helping us out. Okay. Approval of the agenda. Anybody have anything we need to add or change? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion that we approve the agenda for September the 3rd.
October 15th?
Well, this is October, the agenda, I'm looking at the minutes of the minute. Okay. October the 15th.
Yes.
Oh, wait a second, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. All right. Public comment time.
The time we all look forward to.
Why am I noisy?
Might as well talk. I can always make something up.
Okay.
I can on the fly. Beth,
Don't feel compelled. You got 3 minutes.
I just go. Time it. Well, let me see. What could I say? I could say that Alice and I did actually enjoyed meeting with Elaine and Jan. I felt like they were very nice and hospitable, and we had it was kind of a fun thing instead of like thing. And we did enjoy it. And I'll tell you one thing too. I at least was very impressed with the conditions of the records that we did view. I would be excited to see what's over there in that place that's too dangerous for us to go in. No, just kidding. As soon as you find out. But at any rate, plus it's been interesting to, like Elaine mentioned, we've all had a crash course on the sunshine laws, and we've found, and it's kind of interesting to see how, get back into the legal end of things and see how things work and what's done and the language of it. So whether the spirit of the law or if by the definition of the language, how it all works. So that was actually fun. And the only thing I think about the records, they were in excellent condition as far as the presentation of what we saw. The only thing that really got my dander up, if I'm just being honest, is that it was a year ago this month that we had the unfortunate situation out front here after the meeting. And when I read the account of our then clerk of that evening, it would be no wonder that many of you wouldn't dislike me or maybe feel bad about Brent Hartman. But I can tell you, from my experience and some of the other witnesses that were actually there at the time, that is not a complete, accurate description of what went on there at all. It was, and in fact, some of it was not correct. A statement that I had made about you, and then she had commented back on it. She's got quoting you as saying it. There's just some discrepancies there. That kind of got my dander up because I don't like my character assaulted after being assaulted and bad things said about me, because I try to be a good person. But other than that, it was a real positive experience, and I hope that you're all starting to enjoy our participation here, because we've had lots of comments that we haven't been here in the past, and why weren't you here then when this is going on, and we were here and you weren't, kind of a thing. That was the only other thing I did find is looking through the records, there was no mention of my being there during the meeting that I am claiming that I was to and asked to leave by the clerk, which I did find out that you don't have to actually list the guests. That's not part of the law, although other places they were listed. And the thing I did find out is that there was no closed meeting during that length of time. So I had been asked erroneously to leave the meeting. That was a violation of the Sunshine Law. However, there is a statute of limitation, which is something like a year, or if you didn't know about it or whatever, then there's a 2-year, and so obviously 2011 exceeds the statute. And so your comment, well, what good would it be to go back and look, is just because there was a violation. And it was, like I say, I don't even remember who was there myself. I know my son-in-law, I sit where Elaine is, my son-in-law was there, my 2 grandkids were sitting behind me, and I did note that he had a couple of cans of Dr. Pepper with him, like more than one there. And then I was just there such a brief moment before I was asked to leave, but I did not see any closed meeting during 2011. Other than that, we hope that we can continue to work together, because we all live here in this little village, and this is really about us, except for a handful of other people who just do not want to come to these meetings because they could not stand it. So anyway, that's I hope that was 3 minutes plus. But
All right, anybody else? Deanne, what are you going to?
I have a couple of things I wanted to share, and I wasn't sure if I've shared something right now, if I could still speak to an issue later on in the agenda.
Okay.
So I can. Okay. Just a couple of thoughts that I've had running through my mind as we come to you and try to discuss and present where we're coming from. It feels like we're speaking the same language, but we're not communicating, is how it feels. Because we say, please protect our constitutional rights and our personal property rights. You hear those words coming out of our mouths, but it doesn't feel like we're all on the same page. So I just had a couple of things I wanted to share with you. Quoting from the Declaration of Independence, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. That means they come from God, not from governments. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. So you have power because you have our consent to govern us, okay? That whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends of our life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. And just in addition to that, we don't come here to try to be a thorn in your side. We really have concerns about our rights and our liberty. And that's why we continue to come back to petition you to hear the meaning behind our words, if that can make any sense. And the definition of liberty: natural liberty consists in the power of acting as one thinks fit, without any restraint or control except from the laws of nature. It is a state of exemption from the control of others and from positive laws and the institutions of social life. This liberty is abridged by the establishment of government. So whenever we have government, then we've got to find a balance, because government means, you know, governance, exactly. And our constitutional right with our personal property and things, it is the right of the people to be secure in their persons, in their houses, in their papers and effects, against the unreasonable searches and seizures, shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or the things to be seized. I hope that we once again have reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited. There's a clear cause and effect here that is as neat and predictable as the law of physics. As government expands, liberty contracts. That's a quote from President Ronald Reagan. So as our ordinances expand, our liberties as villagers contracts. And that's why we continue to come to you, so that we can find a balance there, because more expansion means less liberty for us. Another quote from Benjamin Franklin: "They who can give up essential liberty to obtain a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty or safety." So if we give up our liberty just so that we can be safe in something, we're not really deserving of our liberty or our safety. And the last quote: "Those who deny freedom to others deserve it not for themselves." That was from Abraham Lincoln. So when the people fear the government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. And I'll just give this to Elaine to
Okay, I was gonna say,
include.
do you want me to make a copy? Do you want that?
No,
All right,
that's
I'll
that's
just
for
put
you
that
to
in the minutes.
include in the minutes.
Thank you, thank you.
Thomas Jefferson had said everything that's on that piece of paper
Two.
Yes.
many times.
Any other public comment?
I have something if nobody else does. Okay, let's see, one copy from me, one for each of the trustees and Elaine, and one for you all if you want to look at it. Seems like a couple of years ago, I asked, and I thought it was on a couple of occasions, if the trustees would be willing to sign this resolution to protect citizens' property rights. So I just wanted to read it aloud into the record. and then ask that question again. So the resolution to protect citizens' property rights reads, the undersigned elected officials and or community planners officially engaged to create planning programs for the community of the Village of Jameson, Missouri, do hereby agree to the following. That planning involves and affects regulation of private property rights. That individual property ownership constitutes an asset of unique value as well as the foundation of individual liberty for American citizens. Recognizing that value, we agree that all citizens' private property rights shall be placed in the highest priority of consideration during the planning and or zoning process, and in the event that any part of the planning and or zoning process or recommendations resulting from the process shall potentially negatively impact any property rights, property owners, or the value of their private property, those affected property owners shall, A, be provided full timely disclosure notifying the property owner or the owners of the potential that their private property rights may in some way be infringed, or the value of their private property may be thereby affected. And B, be provided full disclosure outlining the rights to be infringed upon, and C, be provided an opportunity to opt out of any rights infringing ordinance, regulation, or policy. In the event of property loss or usage by the private landowner due to ordinance enforcement, planning restrictions, or zoning changes, the affected private property owner shall be fully compensated in a monetary amount equal to the fractional fair market loss of the original value of his property as a result of such zoning or other related restrictions on the fair legal use of his property. Further, affected property owners shall be notified of the potential impairment to their rights and their individual written approval required before engaging in any of the following. A, reconfiguration and zoning that intensifies or in any way adds restrictions to existing rights, B, implementation of conservation easements or trading of development rights, and C, acceptance of grant money by the above named government entity or their assigned planners, whether from nonprofit organizations, governmental, or private funding sources. Finally, it is agreed that no village representatives or their assigned agents will come onto private property for any planning purpose without written consent of the owner. And I just wondered if you all would be willing to sign that.
Did you sign tonight?
You're undecided?
Undecided.
I'm not gonna commit tonight, thanks.
Not tonight, I'm gonna have to go read back through it again.
All right, then, thank you.
Okay, any other public comment? Okay, move on with our meeting. Approval of the minutes for the September meeting. Everybody received those via email.
I have a question about one thing. It talks about the water department and having a disconnect and refund of the deposit on the Merrigan property. If this says in Kansas City, I was thinking that was in Nebraska Bay. But it was Kansas City? Okay. That's the only thing I saw. Thanks.
Are there any other corrections or additions to minutes? Can we have a motion to pass?
Move the approval of the minutes for September 17th, 2015.
A second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Okay. Ordinance review. The first one, amending the ordinance on the Board of Trustees and Chair to update the qualifications for candidate for office pursuant to recently enacted state law and related matters.
You remember the law changed and then they changed it back and they worded it a little differently. So this is what the state law, current state law requires. And it's gonna require whether we have it in our ordinances or not. But we made a philosophical decision that we put things in our ordinances so things would be in one location. So if folks wanna file for office, they don't have to go research the statutes, they can look at the ordinances and have that information. So that's my understanding of this is.
And I think we got that copy of that in the email. Is that
Yes.
everyone?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get a chance to print off myself, but.
Is this the states or the states?
This is the states. The bold language is are the changes. The strike through is our current ordinance, and it will be replaced with the bold language.
Okay. Is there a copy for?
She sent it to us with the email. I'm glad to share my with you. Look, sure. Unless somebody else wants to do it.
I believe I have to read that.
Just by title, well, she just read it by title, so
Okay.
now you have a discussion and then another reading by title. Madam Chairman, may I point out one thing? Under Beth's description is correct, with one exception. Under 2B, that states if the board has reason to believe that a candidate is filed for the office is delinquent, that is not part of the state law. That is simply an inclusion that the board would be deciding what it would do in case it encounters that. Everything else is actually direct quote from state law. Just so you're fully informed.
Thank you. Any discussion on this bill? If it's state law, we have to do it this way.
Yeah, I mean, the one point that she made was a B, wasn't it?
So B is what will be put in our ordinances or is in them?
It's in addition to
All
the
of,
state.
all of the bold portion will be, and all of the stricken out will be removed.
Any other discussion about it?
Where are we?
The bill.
Right here on this bill.
Do you have a copy? Oh, you have it there? Did you print that off, Alicia? We have a copy there. So can Jan make a copy? Please.
Do I understand this correctly, that if the board comes across a person who's applied to run, and they find out they haven't paid their taxes, they're gonna come in as delinquent with the IRS?
Not, oh,
The Department of Revenue,
which is the Missouri
state,
version of the
that's,
IRS.
that's where the law places the investigative responsibility.
And that's not part of the law. We don't have to accept B. We can say, move for the adoption of the changes except for 2B. And then we would have that. But another thing is that we would knowingly be letting something go forward that we knew wasn't legal. No, it will. It was when we filed, but it was off for 1 year and now it's.
It was when we got on
Yes,
it, and they
yes.
took it off, and then now they put it back on
Right.
again.
It was wrapped up in a bill that did other things, and so they just deleted the whole
So you
section.
guys will still let us do repeat?
No, I had to do it every time. I don't think we've had any elections where, well, no, somebody did, because you and I ran last time, right? That's when it wasn't, so.
Oh, we escaped.
We escaped the skin of our teeth. Yeah, you and I were the escapers.
Okay, so do we want a second reading?
I have to tell you, I oppose it. I don't want that responsibility. Make myself legally responsible to turn somebody in.
The B to B.
Yes, B.
Okay, so
So you'd propose, I don't know when you do the second reading, but you'd propose the adoption of it without 2B. Is that right? Because the rest of it we don't have a choice over.
Right.
2B is the only thing we have any flexibility on. But if that's what
Yes,
you're
thank
saying,
Madam Chairman, just as a suggestion procedurally, if you desire to amend, the motion should be to amend by deleting that to B. Then that motion should be voted on. Then assuming that motion passes, then the next motion would be to adopt the bill as amended. So it's two separate motions, is the
Proper way to do it. Thank you. Okay, so we have a discussion on what Lorianne's proposing. To scratch that from our ordinance.
I would, it doesn't really matter to me whether it's in or out, other than, because I think we still have a responsibility as, we want things to be done in the best interest of the village. The best interest of the village is having people who represent it pay the taxes. And so it doesn't preclude it. It doesn't mean that this goes out. We can't individually report it, but it doesn't put it on the board as a whole to be the policer of that. So it's okay with me to take it out. If you want comments.
Any other comments, David? Lisa?
Yes, aye.
Oh, he's ready to vote.
Whatever you are saying.
Okay.
Well, do you have any comment about taking that section out of our ordinance so that as a board, we're not responsible for turning somebody in who's been delinquent their taxes and then requesting to join our board?
I want to take it out, that they don't have to pay their taxes.
No, we don't have
But
to.
the report.
Yeah, that we,
That we don't, that it doesn't have to.
That the board as a whole doesn't have to report it.
Not only do they not have to report it, but if they don't, they're not held legally responsible either.
Okay.
So, Lori, would you like to make a motion?
Okay, let me see if I can do this right. I would like to make a motion that we, what was the word? Amend this ordinance by leaving out B, A, B, 2B, 2B. And that's it.
Okay, do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion passed. So, second reading of the amended. Second, is that what we do, a second reading? of
With the amendment.
Or
You
do we
should
have to
really
read
have
it
already
two more
done the
times?
second reading before the amendment, but
It's just now another motion.
read it again. If we didn't already, I have to add.
Bill 2015-08, amending ordinance 2012-03, Board of Trustees and Chair, to update qualifications for candidates for office pursuant to recently enacted state law and related matters, amending it to delete section 1, 2B.
Okay. So we need to vote. Approve it?
Now you need a motion to motion it as amended.
I need a motion to, we want to approve this as amended.
I make a motion, we approve the bill as amended.
I second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?